bringing Gator Nation a different Gator Great every episode.
This is Jabari Gaffney, and you're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, I'm Rita Anthony.
This is Kewan Ratliff.
Hey, I'm Carlos Alvarez.
This is Jeff Dempsey.
This is Ricky the Rocket Natil.
This is Brandon James.
This is Cedric Faison, a.k.a. C4.
This is Taylor Jacobs. Go Gators.
This is University of Florida Gator Great, Lewis Oliver. Lock us in, guys.
Hey, I'm Earl Everett. If you're not a Gator, you're Gator Bait.
Only Gators get out alive.
Hello, this is Eric Rick. Go Gators.
Hi, this is Ernest Graham.
This is Chris Doring.
This is Jaden Ball.
Hey, this is Trace Armstrong.
This is Brad Culpepper, and you're listening to Best Podcast on the Air.
Hey, guys, this is Jarvis Marks.
You're either all for the Gators or you're not.
Go Gators.
You rocking with Lito Shepherd, and we're all for the Gators podcast, man. Top notch.
And now, your Gator alumni hosts, John, Andy, and Sid.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
But he doesn't have any audio.
Nope, nothing's working. Right on time, Sid. We can't hear you. Nope.
We can see him talking, but we can't hear him. Check that microphone.
This is going swimmingly.
You know, we got some kinks to work out, maybe.
I'm a little rusty.
See, if you join early, then you have time to work out those kinks.
Yeah, but we wouldn't want to
do that.
I thought you guys were going to throw me under the bus for sending out the link like 2 minutes ago.
I was trying to be considerate of it. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I logged in pretty shortly after receiving that link. But if it makes you feel better to make me the bad guy, I'm willing to take that for the team.
Always.
That's what I call a team player. That's what I bring to the table.
All right.
Yeah, you did good.
Did you guys see the College Football Hall of Fame ballot?
I did not. Is there anybody that we care about that's on there that we should know about?
I think so. Andy, you're shaking your head yes. You want to make the announcement here?
Well, there is one on there that caught my attention.
Is Percy Harvin finally getting his due?
He is on the ballot. Also on the ballot, friend of the show, Brad Culpepper is back on the ballot. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite episodes. Survivor and football stud. Love it.
Yep. And attorney at law these days over in Tampa.
Apparently his billboards are abundant in Tampa, according to the man himself.
And one of the guys that we were there at school with. You'd recognize him if you walk by you. Alex Brown.
That's one of my all-time favorites. Alex, come on the show. Tell us about being in the Hall of Fame. We'd love to hear about it.
Well, they didn't make it yet.
He's one of those guys that we talked about in previous episodes that drive me crazy when my rival pro teams draft Gators. Makes me crazy because he got drafted by the Bears.
All right. Are we ready?
I guess we're as ready as we're getting.
Guys, today's guest isn't the name you saw lit up in the marquee of Gator Greats, but his impact on the team was undeniable. See, for every star quarterback or receiver, you need that player willing to give it their all to help the team win, bleed, get dirty. Well, this guy was just that, and the glue that held some of the greatest Gator football teams we've ever seen together. The guy that was loved in the locker room and a dog out there on the field, but most of all, he was a team leader. He played in 47 Gator games, including the 2000 Citrus Bowl, 2001 Sugar Bowl, and 2002 Orange Bowl. He played fullback, tight end, then fullback again, throwing some center and long snapper. But not all brawn, he had the brains too, as an SEC Academic Honor Roll selection every single season at UF. He also earned the most reliable and the most courageous awards during his time in the orange and blue. Gator Nation, I give you 2001 team captain with number 44 on his chest, SEC champion, Mr. Rob Roberts.
All right. Welcome.
All right, guys. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So cool to have you on with us today, Rob. Thank you for taking the time. Before we talk about your free youth football camp that we're going to get to, what do you think about your former teammate, Alex Brown, landing on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot this year?
You know, that's one thing I say so much about is coming in the class of 97. Like I think I was the only person in my class that wasn't All-American, and out of 28 of us. And Alex Brown was one of those guys from the beginning. Like I think we came to like the spring game, and I was there. I was one of my high school team at Dade City Pasco. We had 19 guys on our team, and and to see guys like Alex and Ben Brown and Gerard Warren, Kenyatta Walker, like all those guys, like I feel like it doesn't surprise me at all, John. And I think if you just saw how Alex played consistently, even from kind of like the beginning, like I think it's well deserved, and really excited to have to see Alex there. I hope he makes it all the way.
That'd be very cool. And also along on the ballot, I don't know if you saw, we talked about it in the intro before you jumped on. Brad Culpepper's back on the ballot, and Percy Harvin as well. So
both friends of the show.
Great Gators.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your Florida Community Football Camp. It's your second year doing it. I think it was in Titusville last year.
Yep.
And this year it's actually in Gainesville. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. Guys, I think, I'm excited that y'all do this and care about the Gator community. It is funny how when you go through life, we all kind of pick up these identities that we have. And I feel like as a kid, my mom took me to Gator football since I was like 4. And so like the whole trajectory, has been nothing but spectacular for me to just even to do it. And I feel like that one thing I love about football more than anything else is football is something that you feel. And I know people probably tell you the same thing about basketball and baseball and all that stuff, but for me, football is, and especially Gator football, is something that I feel. Guys, I've stopped watching it actually on TV, and I just listen to it on the radio, and I just walk around, and I still feel it. And I'll be in weird places listening to like a Kentucky game, like so. I listen to it, and it's important to me. And I think what's just as important as is kind of like the community of people. I think when I came in with the class of '97, like I was really lucky just to be surrounded with a bunch of guys that were really good at football, but also just good guys. And they cared about each other. We still do. Like Andre Davis runs a text chain with our class that he says good morning to us every day, and sends us a prayer or a Bible verse or something where it's like, and you hear from all these guys, and it's like to get up. Andre knows all of our kids' birthdays and says happy. It's just these little things that make a big difference. And so I think one of the things that was I'd been away from Gainesville for a long time. I still stay in touch with a variety of guys, but not enough. And I think we all have kind of like our pockets of players that we stay in touch with. But I just felt like we were missing something as far as one is like a connectedness, and two is kind of like a service aspect. Like I think Florida football is all these small towns across the state. To be honest, it's not Gainesville or Tampa or Miami, even those are all important places. I know that Gerard and Thaddeus Bullard are from Live Oak, and Ben Brown's from Clearwater, and I'm from Dade City, and like they, I feel like even and Aaron Walker, he's from Titusville, but it's just all these places where you have a bunch of kids who probably aren't going to camp somewhere else. They're probably going to be where they are for the summer. And I thought, how can we kind of feed two birds with one stone here and get a chance for us to be together and get a chance for us to give back? So we kind of do two things we need to do. And I think also like in this age of college football where it's a lot of stuff. It's very different. It's a very different game than when I played. And it's, and I think the jury's still out on how it'll go, but it's still about people. And I think that's what mattered to me was like, how do we show people, like the people who create college football care about the communities they come from. And it's not like money will always be a part of the game. Like all these things that are a part of the game kind of are around the game, but not the heart of it. And I think it is the people and then giving back to these small communities that we all come from that don't get a lot of attention and resources. And so that was kind of where the Florida Community Football Camp came from. And, I think my goal is, every year to find a community that, that has a Gator, a part of it, that wants to be the host, wants to bring it back to their school, and then we kind of rally around that Gator for that year. And I think this year, Doug Johnson actually was the first one to kind of bring it to Gainesville. Doug actually moved to Los Angeles. His son had a great opportunity, and we wish Doug all the best. And Doug will be back in Florida soon. Because
where'd his son go?
He's playing on Carson Palmer's team in Southern California.
Okay, so he's going to a high school out there in LA.
That's right, for his senior year. That's right.
Okay.
But so I was working with Travis McGriff. We were going to go to Buchholz, and they're fixing the field. And luckily enough, one of my teammates and one of my good friends on the team, Ernest Graham, just got the job at Santa Fe in Alachua, and which is home to so many Gators. Mike Peterson and Zach Zadelis and Shea Showers, like guys that are just incredible Gators. And so I feel like we're going to be in Alachua this summer on July 12th, and really just trying to Ernest is really like been asked to rebuild that team, which was amazing, for so many years, especially when Zach and Mike and them were on there. But that's kind of what we're doing this summer, and that's what we hope to do every summer for as long as we can. And I think it really is intended to be kind of like a community effort and a give back campaign for Gator football across the state that that gave us all what we have.
Well, that's really great. Where do people find out about that? How do you get involved or get an opportunity to participate in that?
Yeah, so I have a website that I'll give y'all. I don't know if you guys know this. One of our best Gators, and I always say this, Kirk Wells played tight end when I was there, and I feel like if Kirk would have been split out like Travis Kelce or any other tight end now, he would have been we'd have read a lot about Kirk on Sunday. But he's now but now he's a graphic designer. And he lives in Louisville, Kentucky. So Kirk has helped me build everything. He's done all the branding. He works for a big design group out of Atlanta, but I have the website. I'd love to share it. And, guys, I also feel like that this is really for everybody. Like we have sponsors, that we invite to come be a part of this, but I really want it to be a Gator get together. I think that was one of the names that we came up with, the Florida Community Football Camp. But I think another name was like the Gator get together or something like that. But that one didn't make it, but we stuck with the community football campaign.
We're workshopping that.
We are. That was a lot of work. Yeah, we cut. But it was funny for a minute.
That's so much richer and more detailed of how you put that together and why than I even thought. It sounds like a pretty awesome experience to get out there, learn some football, pick the brains of some former Gator greats. But let me ask you this. Yeah. For parents that are hesitant about kids playing football these days, how is it different from when you were growing up to your camps today?
I think this camp it's for 6-year-olds to 12-year-olds. So this camp is, number one, is about fun and safe fun. So we'll have some of Ernest's, actually, the Santa Fe High School is going to volunteer with us, and we'll have Gators there, kind of like running all the stations. But I think it's about a couple things. Number one, staying safe and staying cool, which is impossible in July in Gainesville. But
that's very true.
But and then kind of like just having fun. Like we're not trying to. There's a little bit of competition. We play a thing called Gator Ball at the end of it, which kind of comes out, from the Gator football camps that they have, which is kind of like ultimate frisbee, but with football. And so it really is just about fun. We have also, I'm a parent too. Like some of the stations for the kids are in the shade drinking water. They're not all sprints. They're not all drills. And we're also talking with Ernest. We're going to run a big slip and slide at the end. Like I think our big thing is for everybody who walks on that field to have a good time and leave. We're gonna have lunch as well for everybody who's there, just to leave with a great experience and wanting to do it again.
Yeah, and you mentioned water. I remember when I was a kid. I mean, if you asked for water during football practice,
oh man,
wow, you could not do that.
No, water is a sign of weakness. Yeah. I remember that. I remember my dad telling me. I think he got caught like he was like sucking on a towel or something like that. But that was like back in you can't. Water, and then you take salt tablets after practice or something like that. It was
that's like Bear Bryant Junction Boys torture stuff from the 50s. We're talking here,
exactly.
Right?
No, that's right. That's right. Football definitely has evolved. It's funny. I think one of my favorite evolution stories is Sam McCorkle. Y'all probably know Sam now is the head coach at Dartmouth since we lost Buddy, unfortunately, who was one of my favorite experiences as being a Gator was Buddy Tevens, hands down. But Sam McCorkle was as well. Sam is from Fort Pierce, and he's been at Dartmouth forever. But Sam was a wedge buster in Gainesville. Like as a kid, I used to watch him. Like nobody ran harder, played harder, was tougher than Sam McCorkle. And he ran our scout team when we were freshmen, and it was a terrible thing, but it was also a great thing because Sam made it that way. But Sam now is kind of like the Dartmouth. Buddy was the first one to do no contact at practice. They tackle robots made by the engineering thing. They're also doing rugby style tackling. Like I think there's a lot of people being really thoughtful about how football is evolving so that it stays around for a long time and is safe and fun for everybody who wants to participate in it. So the camp is just fun. My son actually plays for flag up here in Michigan, and I think the evolution of flag has been awesome too, just because it gets people kind of a taste for the game without some of the contact. And but I feel like it's there's just a lot of ways to enjoy it now that I think weren't around before.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an awesome concept. I mean, and it's cool how you described it, how the UF Brotherhood kind of coming together for a great cause like this camp. That's, like John said, the way you explained it was, I had no idea that's kind of how it came together. So very cool to hear.
Yeah, I love that.
So from ages 6 to 12, Bucoltz High School, Florida Community Football Camp.org is the webpage, right?
It's Florida Community Football Camp.org, and it's going to be at Santa Fe High School this year, John.
Oh, Santa Fe High School. Sorry about that.
Yep, that's okay. We were at Bucoltz when we transitioned. And John, the one thing I want to say is, like, I think what's hard, what I'm working on, and Bill Feinberg is an amazing resource for me with the Gator Nation, is kind of like spanning generations. I think that's one thing I want to see us all do more of, is like reach out to the younger Gators and the older Gators and know that we all have this shared thing that's important that we can kind of like, and I think that's what's like building a network. And it's not just to get a job or to put something on your resume, but it's like a human connection that I think means a lot. And those are the kind of connections that I hope we can make.
So what Gator Greats are going to be out there this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I have most of my class of 97 signed up. Alex Brown came last year. Gerard Warren came last year. Mike Pearson, nice. Aaron Walker, Ernest Graham was there. I'm trying. Who else was there? Like Aaron Deal was there. Aaron might be our host next year in Fort Walton Beach. But it was really Brian Hoggebrook. I feel like it was a lot. Todd Johnson was there. Todd is awesome. Doug came. Doug Johnson was there. I'm trying to think, guys, if they're. I remember the picture.
It's an all-star cast.
It sure is.
No, man,
quite a squad.
It was
lots of friends of the show there.
Mike DeGore. I don't know if you guys have talked to Mike DeGore. I love Mike DeGore. He's such a sweetheart. Eric Johnson, Willie Green was there. I don't know. We probably had 20 guys, and I feel like that. Ben Brown was there. I think Ben Brown is one of those guys. Ben is one of those guys that just kind of like shows up. Like if you tell Ben, hey Ben, I need you to be here at a certain time, Ben will just show up, and he's such a reliable guy, and we'll just jump in whatever. And I tell you what, also. Zach Zadelis was one of our main. Zach was watching all the kids last year, making sure that no one was overheating, and he was a great resource. So it was great to see everybody there, and just to try. I think kind of my ask of them is to invite another Gator, invite someone else that you think would enjoy being a part of this. I met some Gators that I didn't know, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple guys that showed up, but man, it was just a nice way to start out. It's funny, we got to Astronaut High School there, where Chris Collinsworth actually is. Chris didn't make it, but he's on the list for future camps. There were just guys, 40-year-old plus men like me asleep in the parking lot just waiting for it to start. And I was just so grateful of them just driving from wherever in Florida to be a part of it.
Sure. Florida Community Football Camp.org for 6 to 12-year-old Santa Fe High School. Sounds like a absolutely great camp for kids. No charge, is that correct?
That's right, no charge.
No charge, it's free.
Yep.
There's no excuse. Get out there, learn about the great sport of football. And what better way to learn it than from a bunch of Gator Greats, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wish I could have done that when I was 6 to 12. My goodness.
Yeah. All right, Rob. So can we talk about you for a minute here?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, you mentioned Pasco High.
Yep.
That's where you went to high school, Dade City. That's a Tampa Bay area.
It is.
You played football and baseball. You were a two-way lineman, all-state at O-line, right? Your senior year. You said you were a Gator fan. Were you a Bucks fan over there? Because I could see you walking around with an all-stop jersey on.
I did. I grew up with the Bucko Bruce and Vinny Testaverde. But yeah, Mike Allstott was such a special guy as well. But I think the Bucks, I kind of was a Bucks fan, but I feel like that for me, it's like I was kind of just with the Gators. We listened to the Bucks because it was Sunday and that's what we did. But I feel like for me, I think people do swing either college football or pro football, and for me, it just was always the Gators. My mom used to take me to Gator basketball games on school nights from Dade City, so it was. I mean, my mom's she's a committed Gator. But
wow,
yeah,
very cool. Who was on the Gator team at that time?
Dwayne Chinchis, Vernon Maxwell.
Vernon Maxwell,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Dwayne, Chinchis. Dwayne, he had the mullet way back there, and they were never that good. I even think the Gators when I was growing up were always used about 5-5. Like they were. I mean, but they used to have the signing day down on the field when it was that hot AstroTurf that would take your skin off. And I remember my brother and I met Emmitt Smith when he was 18, and that was
very
cool.
cool.
It was pretty special. Yeah.
Vernon Maxwell's getting pretty active on social media. I don't know if you guys have seen it. He's done some podcasts. And
yeah, he's on all the Smoke podcasts now with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson.
He's telling some outrageous stories about Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You got to check it out if you haven't
pretty
seen
vulgar. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. He's a great speaker, actually.
He is. Well, I have questions. So you say you've been going to Gator games since you're a little kid.
Yep.
Mom's taking you to basketball games, and not even in the golden age of Gator stuff. So was there ever any doubt that you were going anywhere but to Gainesville? Was there anybody else that gave you a offer that you considered, or were your sights always coming to be orange and blue and playing in Gainesville with us?
Yeah, I feel like that it's funny when you go through kind of like the recruiting process and who you talk to. I really wanted to. I got an appointment to West Point, which was a great opportunity. I had other offers. I went on a visit I went to Virginia. I went to Duke. I went to Northwestern, and I think Florida was one of those ones that I just I'm realistic about my talent and kind of where I fit in. Like you can watch my tape and you watch anybody else's, and you're like, well, maybe you should stick to biology. But I feel like that. I feel like Virginia was great. Like some of these schools, I think I probably would have fit in better athletically. Let's say it that way. But I do.
All those schools, though, are amazing academically. You didn't pick any diploma mills out of those options. No, those are all pretty hard to get into.
They were good. But I feel like I remember going to Virginia. They were playing Texas at homecoming, and Virginia had a good run there back in the. I feel like it was like '96 or something like that. And they beat Texas at homecoming in Charlottesville, and it was really great. But I feel like that there was always it was never the same. I think that was the thing is like I could have gone to Auburn or North Carolina or whatever it is, but I just feel like that I don't know. But so Jimmy Ray Stevens was was the coach that recruited me, and he kind of and it's funny. I talked to Terry Jackson about this, and Terry got offered really late too, and turned out to be one of the best Gators I know. But I got offered late in the kind of like the path of recruiting, and then came to Florida on a visit. Zach Zadalis was my host, and Zach is one of my best friends and one of the worst hosts you could ever have to anything.
Why do you say that?
Well, I think Zach has a regiment. Like Zach lives by a code. He's doing certain things, and sometimes like the general let's show a high school kid a good time. He's like, you see what. But what I love about Zach, though, he'll tell you the truth about what it is, and I think that's one thing that kind of sustained me all the way through. Is like Zach was a good, kind of a moderator of reality for all of us. So I think getting offered late when I came, Coach Spurrier, asked me if I was ready to be a Gator, and and the truth was that's all I've been forever, and and I think. It definitely was tough because I feel like that athletically, I definitely had my work cut out for me. Florida also, as a school, I feel like you guys see this now, you can do anything there, and you can go as hard as you want, or you really can do everything. And I think to try to do both the way that I was it was tough. I think I definitely was challenged in a lot of ways, and but in a good way. And I think that at the end. I had two great experiences at the same time and just tried to enjoy both of them the most that I could.
You had to be a good athlete though. You said you played 19 players on the team. You played both ways. I think you ran a sub 5 40-yard dash as a lineman. I mean, that's pretty athletic, but you got recruited though as a tight end, didn't you, by Florida?
Yeah, it's funny. I was telling someone the other day, I got recruited by Vanderbilt to play defensive end. Because I think in Pasco, we just didn't come off the field. I don't think I was on kickoff, but everything else I was on. At the end of the game, I remember in high school just being I don't know how many, I'd played over 100 plays, whatever, and it would just, and I don't even counted the plays. It's just you just don't come, just stay out there, because there wasn't really anybody else. And at the end of the game,
old school, you wearing the leather helmets too?
No, it was right. It's funny. before me came like Darren Hambrick and Taurus Ross. I don't know if y'all remember those guys, but they were at Pasco High too, and they were when Pasco was, man, they were untouchable. It was amazing to watch them play. It's actually funny. Pasco won the state championship when I was in 8th grade, and Florida won the national championship when I was a senior. And so I was very close, but it was just great to see kind of like all these, great teams and how they operated. So yeah, we got to play a lot of football was kind of the moral of that. And I think it's good for you. I think even now, like we played everything in Dade City: basketball, football, baseball. We caught some alligators, stuff like that. It really prepared you to be ready to play and compete, and I think that was a good thing.
Did Spurrier come to your house for any recruiting visits?
So Jimmy Ray,
I have a feeling you may have a good Spurrier impression.
I don't have an impression. I think Steve came. I don't call him. I shouldn't call him Steve. Coach Spurrier was. He came to my school, and he came. Jimmy Ray came to my house. I didn't meet Coach Spurrier, I think, until I was. I met him at school, but then we went back to Gainesville. It wasn't. I wasn't like, again, my recruiting. Like Terry Bowden came to my. I remember he came to my house, but I didn't have any big names come to my house and try to. Most of the time, it was I was getting the opportunity. It wasn't the other way around. So I think that. But one thing about Coach Spurrier was, I don't know. I think that being around him at that time was kind of a once in a lifetime thing, because he really is kind of a savant in the way that he kind of like sees the game. And I think he is a big part of the way, like he is the genesis of how the game is played now. And I think it's, there's just no getting around that. I'll also say, I don't know, and this guy is still at it. Rob Glass was our strength coach for the most time when I was in Gainesville. And I don't know, Rob is one of those guys that I feel like I spent more time with Rob than I did with my own parents. But he was one of those guys that you could kind of like model yourself on. He just kind of did. He just was so consistent, and in the way that he was and everything that he did. And I think that's as a parent and as a man and as a person in the world. I think it's so easy to be flaky now or inconsistent, and I think really something that I'm trying to kind of model is a lot of the guys that I've seen kind of like along the way is like, how do you do things the right way as much as you possibly can? And I think that's I got a lot of that from guys like Rob Glass.
So you redshirt in 97. Mm-hmm. What did you take away from that year on the scout team?
Yeah. I think my experience with Sam McCorkle was the biggest one. And I think, we were going up against a defense, that was stacked. It was Johnny Rutledge and Javon Curse and Fred Weary and like all these guys that and Bob Stoops was the DC then, and they would say Mayday, and that means you do it again, and so you would do the exact same play, and we'd do it 3 and 4 times, and just to kind of to get it right. But I think the group that we had, we kind of took it. I think that we had a lot of fun trying to make it hard for them. And we also had a thing called Monday Night Football, which was like, if you didn't play on Saturday, you played Monday night. And it was, and I think just like anything else, everything's what you make it. And it could be, listen, you're not going to play on Saturday. Okay. So when do I get to play? And Monday night was it. And I remember playing with Jesse Palmer and Luke Farmer and like all these other guys who playing it with them made it fun. And I think that's the trick of football too. Is I remember where you guys probably, even if you play in high school, like all your friends are going to the lake or they're going home or they're doing something else, but you're going to go down in Florida and you're going to put on all this stuff in that weather, and you chose this. So how's it going to be, right? Are you going to make something out of it? Or are you just going to endure it? And I think that's the thing that you gotta work. And I think that's what's great about football is like, that's life to me. Is like, what are you going to do? You're just going to wait it out? You're just going to wait till it's over? Or are you going to make something out of it right now? And in all the little ways that you can. And I think that's what football kind of like did for me, was kind of like, it just teaches you that. And I also think it makes you love August for the rest of your life, because in Pasco, we did 2-a-days. And 2-a-days are illegal now, I think. But it was, but I think it just now you can look back on it and be like, I'm glad I did that. I think I did enough. I feel good about that.
Well, you did plenty. I mean, you played multiple positions. I'm just curious. Obviously, blocking is still blocking, but what can you tell us, like the difference between doing it as a fullback to a tight end to being on the offensive line? Was it as simple as just lining up in front of the guy in front of you, or was there something you had to do differently for wherever was called on you? What can you tell us about the differences from how you were like a utility knife all over the field there?
Yeah, I think fullback is really a mind shift. You have to really convince yourself of what you're doing, because I think it is on the line play tight end, like it's really quick. Like you're right into your guy with your hands, ideally very quickly. Same with offensive line. You're into the very quick, and the distance between you is not that far to close, right? So
fullback, you get some momentum.
That's right. So I feel like that you have 5 yards and they have 5 yards, and I think I played at about 255. And I remember so did Andre Davis, so did Keith Kelsey, so did like all these guys, and it was just like, hey, who cares about themselves less? Like, because if you're worried about how that's going to feel, it's never going to work out. I think you have to decide that I'm going to make this happen, and I think that was hard for me to start with, because it's the whole idea of like running through a block. You run through a block, and that's at any position you run through it. But in fullback, you actually get a running start. And I think you find guys now, like I think Terry Jackson was so good at this. Rod Frazier was really good at this, is kind of like making the block work without over-compromising yourself. And I think that's something that I needed to work on a little bit more, is like I felt like I needed to kind of like get that initial hit on the linebacker or whoever was there, or if it was a wham G, you were kicking out the defensive end or whatever it was. I remember against Florida State one time, Coach Spurrier was motioning me. He was sliding Zach Pillar to the right, who Zach Pillar, I don't know if y'all ever talked to Zach. He's very funny.
We have not yet.
But he is a giant person. I think he's one of the biggest people I've ever seen, him and Max Starks. But they would slide him, and I would just come off Zach's butt and block the defensive end, which against Florida State was a nightmare. But I tried, and it was, and I think I did okay. That was my freshman year in Tallahassee when I think we got pretty embarrassed. But it was, but fullback was, it's just one of those positions, and I think it is. I see how it's kind of like the game's moving away from fullback. I don't know if you guys ever watched Lorenzo Neal play fullback like that.
Sure.
Lorenzo Neal plays it. I even have who's up here in Michigan with me is Chris Bilkey. Chris Bilkey was a great fullback. But he
for Emmett, right?
Yep. I think so. And anyway, I think it is just one of those. It's fullback's definitely a mentality, and it's just like, this is good. I'm gonna make this happen. It's funny. My last game, because I was the long snapper. John Hunt, EJ Henderson was playing for Maryland, and EJ Henderson was an awesome linebacker. We watched video of him.
Good player. Played for the Vikings for a few years.
Yeah, quite a while. Yeah, and all John Hunt told me all week was, "Hey, dog, you can't let him knock you out. You can't let him knock you out." Because it wasn't that John was that worried about me. He just knew if he knocked me out, he wouldn't have a long snapper. So that was kind of what I was thinking about in the Orange Bowl, was like EJ was going to the NFL, and I was going to probably to teach, and I was like, I'm going to make this whatever's left in me, it's going to come out tonight. And it was a great game, and a great way to round out a career for sure.
Did you have a favorite back to block for? Was it EG?
EG, I love Robert Gillespie. I feel like Robert made me look some of my blocks better, because he was so shifty. He just could make. He was so fast and quick and agile. And also Terry. Like, I love Terry. Terry was like a coach on the field the whole time. I think he always.
Didn't you call him coach?
Yeah, I think Terry just kind of has that demeanor where it's just like you trust him, and I think even today I'll call Terry and ask him what he thinks about something, just because I feel like that he's just that kind of guy, and so I don't know. They were all very different, but it was great, because I felt kind of like protective of them, and wanted to, like, I wanted to do good for them, and then I think then we all did good together, and I think that's what was great about it, is kind of like we all, and I think too, like between Ernest and Rob, is like we all won together. It wasn't anybody trying to to one up anybody. It was like, we're going to win and lose together. And that's how it felt.
As far as favorite plays go, you had a TD reception in 2001 against University of Louisiana Monroe. Is that your favorite play in the orange and blue?
It's not. No, it's not. I don't know.
Okay, so what is?
And this actually didn't go that well, but I just appreciate Coach Spurrier having any kind of faith in me. So we did this play against Michigan State, and it's kind of like it's a trick play. And so you line up kind of like offset to the left, and the idea is that the quarterback kind of like acts like he's dropping it back, and then kind of like wraps the ball around you, and you just kind of like stay still and you wait like a count of 3, and then you spin out and run. I think Adrian Peterson was the linebacker for Michigan State, and he blew me up. But I feel like that it was the reason I liked it. I think that Coach Spurrier just was willing kind of to take some chances that not all the time made sense. Doing a trick play with me was the best example of kind of like grace and generosity that you can think of, because it didn't need to be me, but it was fun to do, and it didn't work, but it sure was fun to try.
Then tell us about the touchdown. How did it feel to score a touchdown for your Florida Gators, your mom's Florida Gators?
Yeah.
What was that feeling like?
It was definitely special. I feel like that I didn't drop it, that I didn't, that it actually happened was great. I will say though that the true satisfaction in football became kind of like the work that you do that people don't actually see. Like, I think for me, blocking for Ernest or Terry or Rob, like that became more satisfying to me. I remember actually we were playing in the rain at LSU one time, and I'm trying to remember the LSU like linebacker, but I remember that I hit him in a way that Rob came right off the outside and scored and it just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like you really kind of made that happen. And sometimes I think when you catch a touchdown, that's just the result of everybody else doing the right thing. And so
that makes sense.
Yeah. So not that I won't take it. And I think Brock Berlin threw it to me, which I love Brock. He's what a great guy. But, and he was nice to throw it to me as well. But I think that's what, I think because he didn't have to. He did not have to. But I think that.
Were your buddies lobbying to get you a touchdown in your career?
No, I don't think a lot of that. My scoring was not. It just wasn't a priority for me, or I think anybody. And for the Gators in general, I didn't need to score. I was glad. I think it was maybe it was snapping first. Maybe blocking and snapping were kind of like what the value I added to the team.
Did you at least keep the ball from the touchdown?
I do have the ball. Yeah, I do have the ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right, tell us. I want to ask you about your experience with the SEC championship game in 2000. Right, that was a pretty big offensive performance by the Gators. Grossman had a fantastic day, threw 4 touchdowns, and Ernest Graham went off, 169 rushing yards. Big offensive performance to put kind of Auburn away. Yeah. What was your kind of experience and recollection of that game?
I think for a while, we kind of like assumed that we were going to get there, and I think while I was there, like we didn't all the time. And that was, disappointing, but also kind of like a reminder is like the SEC doesn't wait on anybody. Like you can't rest on your laurels. Like you have to continue to work because everybody else is out there doing that. And I think kind of like to get to Atlanta, and we lost in Atlanta too. But I feel like that, like getting to Atlanta and making it count, like I think really meant a lot to all of us. And I think that's kind of what you shoot for, like every year. This is, before any of the other additional stuff, even before the bowl game, because I think the bowl game was always just extra. The SEC is what meant the most to us, and so to do that and to do it well. Auburn also, I feel like that. I think what people mostly remember me for at Florida is probably my bad snap I had against Auburn. I have different stories from my cousins of like them having to like stick up for me in weird places that they were watching the game. But I feel like it was. But to be, I think to win in Atlanta, the SEC, like, and I think also just to be a part of kind of like, just kind of like the Gator history, and like that is something that like just means a lot. Winning the SEC still means something today, like it did back then, like it has, and it will continue to do so. It's just special to be a part of a team like that, no matter what role you play, big or small.
All right, John, we've talked long enough. Let's let Sid ask the question that we know he's dying to ask.
All right, Sid.
I am dying to ask, yes. Our mutual friend, Mike Pearson, when he was on the show, told us that you are a sort of first responder, how you saved his life, and firemen carried him to Shands, and miraculously he was, due to your being on the spot and helping him, he was miraculously able to not even miss a game after fracturing his skull. So we heard Mike tell us his experience of that, but I would love to hear your interpretation of how you remember that crazy day.
So that was crazy. The Gators, when I was there, had this thing with scooters. Everybody needed a scooter. It was too far to walk. I had a bike, which I recommend. But Mike's scooter had a lot of problems. So he's like, will you take it down? Let's get it fixed. I'm like, sure, Mike. So we put it in the back of my truck, and he's like, I'm going to sit back here with it because I don't want anything to happen to it. And I'm like, really? Just get up. He's like, no, I'm going to sit back here. I feel like this was like after a run or something like that. So it's not that we weren't paying attention, but we put the scooter in there. Mike sat down in the back. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to where he was sitting. I knew he was back there, and I trusted him to be in the right spot. But Sid, as we went down, we were on the top of the parking garage. As we went down, I think I was going 10 miles an hour. There's an overhang. And this really was a terrifying day for me, for sure.
Sure.
But he hit his head. And all I remember was seeing a lady's face in the parking garage, and I just saw her face. And I immediately I feel like the progression of what had happened, like, really hit me, and I stopped. And so I went back there, and Mike was not, he was just kind of like bent over. I put him down the bed of the truck. I drove immediately down to the training room, and like Adrian and all of our trainers there kind of like, I carried Mike, like I carried Mike as best I could. Like he was kind of standing, but Mike's a big dude and was a lot bigger then. Carried him in.
Oh yeah.
They attended to him and took him to the hospital immediately. I saw Mike at the hospital, that night, and that was the first time that I met his mom and his girlfriend, and they weren't super impressed with me. But I think Mike's a special Gator. He's a Hall of Famer, and I think even like I remember John Hunt like look at me in the hallway and he'd be like, "What'd you do to my boy, man?" And I'm like, I was trying to.
You were blamed instead of getting the hero welcome you deserved.
I was trying. He wanted to fix his scooter, man, and everybody's like, "Come on." He's like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, because Mike, like, I feel like that Mike was. We needed Mike, and I was just like, if I'd have been at UCF or USF, it'd have been fine. So I think that that's kind of the story. It was terrifying. It could not. I think that Mike would tell you the best thing about it was he just missed 2 days.
Yes, he did. That's exactly what he said.
He rolled right in. He rolled right into the game, and I think he was All-American that year. And so I think it. I feel really fortunate because I know that getting hit like in the back of the head can mean so many bad things, and it just, man, I feel like I was just we were just lucky Gators that day for sure, man.
Well, he doesn't have a sense of smell from there, so he said he never had to deal with smelly diapers.
No, I think it's the diapers, the locker rooms, like all the things that Mike needed to. Yeah, that is very. I forgot about that. That is true.
He also called you to this day everybody's sage, offering up advice and what books to read to better their lives. So, for our listeners and for us, give us a great book that's going to fix someone's life out there. Give us some sage advice. What book?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that's obviously very generous of Mike and way off base. But I think there's 2 I would recommend. And I always, and guys, I would love to hear something that I'd like to hear from each of you is like, what was the one thing you think like, hey man, you have to read this book? I think a couple of things, and sage or not, John, I was thinking about The Wisdom of Sundays. It's an Oprah book, and also Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits is a book, James Clear, about kind of like small ways that we kind of like move towards the kind of person that we want to be. And I think that sometimes we take these big swings and big leaps and they don't work and it's disappointing. And I think the real change happens over time and it happens incrementally. And I think that James Clear, that book is really great. I think it actually is the most sold book ever. I think it's more than Harry Potter. But so that was one. And The Wisdom of Sundays is just when Oprah just talks to all this wider range of people about kind of like everything from spirituality to love to life to death. And I think there's just so many things that you can take away from that and use. And those are two that I would share.
Very cool. I don't have as intellectual a library to share.
That's okay. I'll take anything. Guys, I also will say, I don't know if you guys have read Lonesome Dove, but you should read Lonesome Dove.
I remember the miniseries from when I was a little kid. Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall was great. That was amazing.
I did listen to David Cohn's audiobook. I had to drive. I live in Georgia now. I had to drive down for my nephew's high school graduation a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And I listened to David Cohn's audiobook, and that was a great book because half of it was, his stories, and then half of it was about pitching, which I got a lot out of that I can pass down to my son, who's young and playing now. So
that's awesome.
Not football related.
That's okay. No, it doesn't have to be. Sid, Andy, what do you got?
I don't do a lot of books myself. I do listen to a lot of podcasts and things. But I did read a book that I would recommend. I work with a gentleman who was a Army Ranger.
Okay.
And he had someone come speak to us. And we all got a free book, which is partly why I read it. But he couldn't tell me enough great things about this book, and it was by Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
And it's Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
And that book for any kind of leadership was a pretty awesome book. That was one that I actually really, really enjoyed. It was a great book. So that one I would recommend for anybody that's looking for kind of leadership advice and kind of taking ownership of things.
Yeah.
That's the one that I would definitely go with.
That's a good call, Andy. Yeah, good call.
Sid, what do you got?
Well, as usual, you gentlemen are much more sophisticated than me. The last book that I finished was My Life on Skid Row, the autobiography by Sebastian Bach. Yes, I'm a heavy metalhead, but it was quite a good story. Fascinating hearing behind the scenes about the Moscow Music Peace Festival. Good times. So yes, not nearly as sophisticated as your recommendations, but quality capsule of time of late 80s, early 90s hair metal rock scene. So yes, I highly recommend it. And the Big Book of Basketball took me forever to read. Bill Simmons, 1,000 Pages of Basketball. I dug that too.
That's great. That's great range, Sid. Very good. I like that.
I got a question sticking with the fullback range.
Yeah.
In modern day, so much spread offense. Fullbacks kind of going like the way of the Blockbuster video and the Kodak film. Like there's not too many of them. At least in the pro game, many teams don't even have one, or they just have one on the team. As a former fullback, what do you think of that? Do you think that's something that's lacking? Like, should the running game be reinvigorated and there should be more fullbacks, or is the way the offenses go with becoming so much more passing? Is it a different skill that you have to be able to block and still be able to come out of the backfield? Like, what would you say is the state of the fullback in college or pro?
Yeah, so I think it is. You grew up on kind of like the 4 yards in a cloud of dust kind of thing. I don't think that type of football is going to come back because it's just not prolific enough. It's not. I just feel like the way that we used to play, and you'll see at the goal line, on short yardage, like that stuff is still relevant. And I think that they're finding ways to be creative where you don't just sanction one person to that role completely. You have defensive tackles, or you have big tight ends, or whatever it is that'll play that role. But I just think it's the nature of the game. Is like people want to see like. It's a show in a lot of ways, and I think the work of the fullback and the old wishbone offense. We ran the wishbone offense in Dade City, and I don't know. I just don't think that's not where football is going. Like I think people want to see like everybody's getting bigger, faster, stronger, and I think that these offenses are just so dynamic, and I think they're finding ways minimally to keep those in the playbook, but just for specific situations. They're almost like they're just like special plays where you need a fullback. And I think it's okay. Like I think the contact of fullbacks is excessive. And I think that's a rough thing to ask anybody of. And I think if you do it every now and then, that's just football. There's contact in it. But I think that kind of like that banging that we used to do, I don't know. I think it's a tough sell to kids these days.
Yeah. I was going to say the fullback sort of went away for a little while. Yeah. And then there recently has been a little resurgence of the running game in the NFL at least. And a couple of good ones have popped up. So I don't know.
Oh,
I agree with you. That's not
the big guy from the Ravens. He's from Massachusetts. What's his name? He's a horse, man. That's a big dude.
The guy in the 49ers is pretty good, too. He makes the Pro Bowl every year. Use check or something like that.
He's so good. Yeah. That's so true. Yeah.
So from your time in Gainesville as a Gator, we've talked about, you enjoy knocking players out of their shoes more than scoring touchdowns. You've played in some big games, bowl games, SEC championship. What are you most proud of from your time in Gainesville?
John, I think my whole ride in Gainesville was such a variety of things. Like it was, I started and then I didn't play, and then I played a little bit, and then I think it's funny when you line up on the field at practice, you line up in the order that starters are first in line, and then everybody goes back based on the depth chart. And I sat on every one of those lines. I was first, I was second, I was third, I was fourth. And I think that it was kind of just this exercise looking back on it in just kind of like resilience and keeping going. And also I think that the thing that football does, for all of us is it teaches you kind of like that work and pain are kind of just a part of life. And you have to kind of like, you learn in your own way how to come to peace with them and how to make them work in a positive way for you. And I think for me, like just being a Gator, like I said, was kind of something that was like always in me, but then kind of like embodying it in that experience was really fortifying in a lot of ways. And I think my senior year was great. I think we had such a special team. We lost to Tennessee late in the year due to like the 9/11 cancellation. We beat the brakes off of Maryland, but I think we had such a special team that was kind of like my brothers that had come through with me in the class of 97. That's kind of like our last year. And I think I was just proud of myself just for still being there. I think there was a lot of times where it was tough to kind of like just keep going, and this makes sense when I knew there was no real future for me in football. But I think that's important too, is like there doesn't need to be anything beyond the game for the game in front of you to matter. Like I think that's what I learned too, is like to be present, to be consistent, and just to kind of like to do my job on a team that I was lucky to be on. And I think that's how I saw it. That's how I see it now. And I think kind of like coming back to the camp and just, my goal with the camp was to call 100 Gators, talk to them on the phone, not email them, not text them, but just talk to them on the phone, see how they were, tell them about my idea and invite them. And I think that's also what I took away from Gainesville, is just a bunch of relationships that, are coming back around in a really special way. And I'm looking forward to continuing to do that work, for as long as I can.
The Florida Community Football Camp. It's going on. The webpage is floridacommunityfootballcamp.org. Santa Fe High School, 6 to 12 years old. Absolutely free. Gator Greats are going to be there, hanging out, running stations. So you want to sign up. So go to floridacommunityfootballcamp.org. Join Rob Roberts and a ton of Gator Greats out there. Absolutely free. Once again, Santa Fe High School. Rob, it's been a pleasure. We end the show with a bit, and we got a new one this week. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to do blind rankings.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, no.
The topic is greatest college football teams of all time.
Ooh.
I'm going to give you one at a time. You have to slot them in.
Okay.
The 1 through 5,
right,
as you see fit. Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
2004 USC Trojans. Where would you put them?
3.
Safe start.
All right. How about 2005 Texas Longhorns?
Man. I want to put them at 4.
All right. 2019 LSU Tigers.
2.
All right. We're going to go 2001 Miami Hurricanes.
Whew. And I'm waiting on a particular team. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm going to put them at 5.
And the last one is the 2001 Florida Gators.
Yeah, number 1, no doubt.
There we go.
Number 1.
That worked out perfect. Oh, man, that was great, man. So you got number 5, the 01 Canes, number 4, 05 Texas Longhorns, and number 3, 04 USC Trojans, number 2, 2019 LSU Tigers, and number 1, Rob Roberts, 2001 Florida Gators. And I put that in there because whenever people talk about that topic, they talk about the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah.
They always bring up the Canes of '01.
Yeah.
Nobody ever brings up the Gators of '01. In my mind, it's the Gators of '01.
Well,
For
we did face them in the bowl game that year.
Yeah, but, well.
Yeah. I feel like our last year.
Way to bring it down, Sid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
the party pooper. I was at that game. I remember it well.
All right. Well, hey, it's all for fun, right?
That's right.
Just like football camp.
That's
Florida
right.
Community Football Camp.org. Go there, sign up, have a great time. Rob, thank you so much for joining us and being generous with your time today and telling your stories. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rob.
Great
This was great.
Great to be with y'all.
Can I get a Go Gators?
Go Gators.
You know, so cool of how he's connecting the dots of all these small Florida towns that kids have grown up to become Florida Gator greats and All-Americans and Hall of Famers, and in some case, NFL players.
John, you giving us some good nuggets. Is this your 2 bits, or is this just wisdom, pearls of wisdom for the fans out there?
Yes, this is my 2 bits right here. It's just so cool.
He just didn't need to step on it.
Yeah, he just jumped right into it.
Yeah, man, it's just to connect those dots and for that reason, and get these guys back out there, Gator Greats, to participate and represent their cities and host in their cities. So cool to do it for free, absolutely free for the kids. I love it.
As a former camp counselor myself, I definitely appreciate that too. This is good stuff.
All right.
Absolutely. I'll go because I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. It's similar, but a little bit different spin. So I just think it's kind of, as I mentioned during the interview, right? The UF Brotherhood kind of coming together for a cause like that. I just think, having all those guys that are not even out in the same city or whatever, but they all just kind of come together to help with this, I just think is really cool. And that, like, his camp idea is kind of unique, and have all those guys kind of just jump in and support it is kind of what Gator Nation's about, right? We've talked about that on this show before, Gator Nation, and kind of linking it back to our interview with Pearson, right? Mike told us that, what Spurrier told him when he was trying to make a decision, right, about what it's like, being a Gator and getting a degree from UF and what that would mean, for his future. And we've talked about it, right? There's a lot of truth to that. Being part of Gator Nation does, we kind of all come together as Gator Nation, and what he's doing is another example of that. So that's kind of where I sit with my 2 bits.
Absolutely, 100%.
I would just like to. My 2 bits was I was really impressed with him. Wow, for a guy who was a fullback, running full speed into hits. Really, really sharp guy. Clearly always was. Did you hear the roster of schools he was considering going to? Virginia, Duke.
What do you expect him to be like?
I did not expect it, but I mean...
from the Goonies?
Oh, Rocky Road? No, Rob was very impressive.
He
well
was.
representing the Gators. I think he's an awesome Gator ambassador. To piggyback on what both of you said, I love what he's doing with all the kids. I love how he's in group text with his old classmates and stuff.
Yes, cool.
He is the embodiment of a Gator ambassador, and as a fellow Gator graduate, I'm really, really proud to have him as part of our school. And I really, really enjoyed, Rob, might not have had as many highlights as some of our other friends of the show that we've had, but he was a part of some special teams, and it was really, really cool to hear his take on some of that stuff. And I really enjoyed this episode a lot, guys.
Well said, Sid. And I was surprised there was one thing you didn't say to him.
What's that?
I will remember you.
I did have a Skid Row tie in there. I did, but I guess that hits home better than Youth Gone Wild.
Yeah. Or 18 to Life, right?
Yeah. I think it's 53 in life by now, but go for it.
Oh, Lord.
Is this how we end it, guys?
I think so.
What could be a better ending than Skid Row? Yes. I think the producer needs to take us out with some Skid Row on the close. Thank you.
Man, but that was horrible. I got to redub that when I edit. Man, that was so bad.
What happened?
No, when I said the line of the song, it was so bad.
He's not his. Yeah, not.
I thought that was just your horrible Sebastian impression, because you definitely did not hit the note.
No, I have no singing chops. None whatsoever. But 6 to 12 years old, Florida Community Football Camp.org, Santa Fe High School, going on, I believe, next month. So get onto that website, sign up, hang out with a ton of Gator Greats, pick their brains, talk to them.
I wish I were 12. I want to go.
Yeah, yeah, me too, man. I wish I could go. They invite us every year. I haven't been able to go yet, but as soon as I get the chance, I will be there. As soon as I can get the chance. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, as always.
Good show. Go Gators!
Go Gators!
Go Gators!